Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to NewYorkRedBulls.com stream of the fourth round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. And tonight, it's MLS versus NASL as the New York Red Bulls host the Atlanta Silverbacks. I'm David Goss here in what is currently a sunny Harrison, New Jersey, alongside Christian Dyer of the Metro New York newspaper and BigAppleSoccer.com. And Christian, for two teams struggling right now in the league, New York haven't won in 4 straight. Atlanta finishing out their spring season with a 3-0 loss, only had 1 win. This cup gives them an opportunity to turn things around and get some good vibes.
Yeah, these are both teams that are looking for something to get from this more than just advancing in the tournament and more than just good vibes. I mean, the New York Red Bulls, who started off this season so strong under a first-year head coach in Jesse Marsh, they've fallen on hard times, David, and this is a team now that hasn't won in the past 4 games, has lost their last 3. It's certainly an organization that right now needs a boost. And we've seen this before, how a team can translate good form in the U.S. Open Cup to being able to perform well in the MLS regular season. And Atlanta, as you stated, 1 win, 5 draws, 4 losses, 8 points from this season. It certainly did not go the way that this franchise expected it to go this year, kind of building up upon last year, some of the positive things that they were able to do in the NASL. And this is a team that hasn't won since April 18th. So in order to get ready now for the fall slate in the NASL, I think certainly being able to beat an MLS team, a quality MLS team, and getting the experience of doing it on the road would be huge for this and to build some momentum.
And New York Red Bulls have talked about since the beginning of this new reign under Ali Curtis and Jesse Marsh how seriously they wanted to take this competition. They're proving it tonight with a strong lineup, and we'll go over that. But to talk about how badly they want to win it and the history of it, Jesse Marsh has 4 titles in this competition alone, 3 with the Chicago Fire, 1 with DC United. His assistants, Chris Armas, has 4 titles. Dennis Hamlet has 4 titles. John Wolenek has a title himself, all with the Chicago Fire. So it's a coaching staff, Christian, that knows what it takes to win in this type of competition.
And it's a coaching staff that's introducing that concept to this organization. This has been an organization that, at least traditionally over the past 5 or 6 years since being at Red Bull Arena, has not taken this competition quite as seriously as it could have. And you talk about it, Jesse Marsh, who had the opportunity to win 4 U.S. Open Cups, 3 of them with the Chicago Fire, being able to come here and say that this tournament has some value, that this is a way into the CONCACAF Champions League, that it's a way to build momentum during the MLS regular season, create depth. There's a lot of different things here. And when Jesse Marsh came on board and said that he became the next head coach of the Red Bulls, replacing Mike Pecky, he said the U.S. Open Cup is going to be a priority for us. Tonight's starting 11 certainly points to that.
For Atlanta coming into this game, we said their struggles at the bottom of the spring season in NASL, but an opportunity for Coach Gary Smith, who MLS fans will be familiar with from his time with the Colorado Rapids, a chance to come here and win a big game on the road against Major League Soccer competition. We're going to go down for a national anthem, and then we'll be back with starting lineups and all of your first half action. Two teams ready to get this one started. The New York Red Bulls, their first opportunity to play in this competition. Entering in the fourth round, Atlanta had to knock off Chattanooga FC to get here. And here's the starting lineup for Coach Gary Smith in goal. Stuart Seuss, the Haitian international, along the back line. Kyle Miller, Rashawn McKenzie, the captain Simon Mensing, and the Englishman Paul Black. In midfield from right to left, Kyle Porter, formerly of DC United, Michael Reed, Dominic Apong, and local boy Jonathan Okafor of Verona, New Jersey. And up top, Jaime Chavez and Shaka Bangura, who got them the 2 goals to get into this competition.
This is certainly a starting 11 that's geared for the counterattack. When you're looking at Reed and Opong going to be playing deep, kind of in that empty bucket. Okafor being pushed up on the left side, being able to provide a little bit of that width, but also some defensive might. I expect him to pinch in as well.
And we said it, a strong lineup for the New York Red Bulls, and you see it. Connor laid in at right back in place of Cristobal, who's serving a suspension from his red card from last year's competition against the New York Cosmos. Ronald Zubar finally returns to play. That France connection in that center back role with Damien Perenel, Roy Miller at left back, Felipe, Dax McCarty, and Kleshton in the midfield, Lloyd Sam out wide right, Mike Grella out left, and up top, Bradley Wright Phillips. When they said they wanted to play a strong lineup, it doesn't get much stronger than this.
Yeah, with the exception of Chris Duval, who would usually start at right back. Connor Lade, though, has had a fair amount of league appearances this year. He's a versatile player. Expect him to be pushing up, providing some support. Interesting to see Roy Miller in at left back as well. He's been playing center back the past few league matches as they've had some suspensions and injuries, international call-ups at the center back position. Miller's going to be comfortable. Look for him to overlap with Mike Grella, who's originally a forward, but who's been asked now to be playing on the left side of the midfield. He's been on a tear the past couple games.
And for New York, we said they haven't won in 4 after starting so well this season. What do they have to focus on to get it right here tonight, what they haven't been able to do over the past 4 games?
Well, the first thing is going to be concentration. This is going to be an Atlanta team I expect to have 10 players behind the ball pretty consistently. They're going to chase down things. How does that high press that Jesse Marsh likes to implement for New York, how does that correspond in a game like this where it's going to be so defensive? Your opponent, the concentration is going to be key. They can't get caught on the counterattack. Atlanta's got decent speed on the wings and up top. If they can get the ball quickly, Ronald Zubar hasn't played a competitive soccer match in nearly 3 months now. What's his fitness going to be like in shape? He has to stay focused at all times to make sure he doesn't get caught napping.
The New York Red Bulls, they went to the 2003 U.S. Open Cup final. Since then, they haven't won multiple games in this competition, but it's the quickest way to a trophy is what everyone says. 4 to 5 wins, you can get yourself some silverware and get yourself in the CONCACAF Champions League. And we have kicked off this 4th round matchup in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. New York Red Bulls and the Atlanta Silverbacks facing off.
And not just a way to the CONCACAF Champions League, but as Luis Robles noted yesterday, a way to get a pretty nice bonus, too. Don't think the guys aren't thinking about that year-end bonus for winning this cup.
And a paid bonus for the winner of this competition. 16 games going on, 17 MLS teams that enter the competition at this round. The NASL entered at the 3rd round, USL entering at the 2nd round. And for Atlanta, a little bit of pride to play for their league. USL beat NASL teams in all 7 matchups in the last round, and so Atlanta only one of 2 continuing to play in this competition. And so for Gary Smith and his boys, that's another element in this game, Christian.
And the other team that's good, that's representing the NASL, will be playing tomorrow, City FC versus the Cosmos, the team who knocked out the Red Bulls last year.
So a lot of soccer going on right now in the New York area. We have kicked off here. Jaime Chavez coming in. Jaime Chavez, one of only 3 players from last year's lineup that remained on this team under Coach Smith, brought in from Cal FC, who we all know gave us the big story in this U.S. Open Cup under Eric Winalda, and then he followed Eric Winalda to Atlanta as Atlanta tried to rebuild under him, but they've had to rebuild again. Almost this entire lineup was signed in either January or February. And Christian, it just takes time sometimes for a team to gel.
It does take time to gel, and it also takes time especially to gel in the attacking third, where we saw Atlanta only a handful of goals this year. Their leading goal scorer had a brace throughout the entirety of the season, and being able to build that chemistry, the flowing, the overlapping, who's moving into the little pockets, those passing triangles that you want to see in the final third, the quickness, the speed of play as well. You have players who are adapting to this level of play, coming over from overseas, coming in from college level as well. So that key component in the final third. This is a team that's defensively rather strong. They have a fair amount of experience at the English league level as well, with a couple of their center backs. So it's going to be a team that has a good defensive shape, but attacking-wise, they look impotent sometimes.
And you talked about a little bit for that team, that defensive presence. They lost 3-0 to the Tampa Bay Rowdies in their last game, but Coach Smith said to me last night that he felt in their last 10 games, that was the first time he really thought they were outplayed. They've only been losing by 1 goal in the other games, and he talked about that defensive presence, and they're going to sit back here today. And so New York's going to have to create something. They're going to have to push the attack here tonight.
But the opening 3 minutes or so here for Atlanta, they've been strong. They've knocked the ball around with some confidence, and they're a team that if they can learn to play together, and that's the knock. I had the opportunity to speak with someone who coached against Atlanta through this past regular season. He said, this is a team that's very talented. You don't know what you're going to be able to get from them, but they haven't been able to figure it out in terms of being able to play together, cohesion. A lot of times they'll try to do things on their own. They don't link well.
Dax McCarty with that long ball towards Bradley Wright Phillips, cut out by Stuart Seuss, New York native. Played at SUNY Albany his time. Has a couple caps with the Haitian national team as well. One of the few guys on this team that Coach Gary Smith knew from his MLS days that he focused on to bring in to build a culture on this team. Dax McCarty loses out there. It's cleared the other way, and McCarty talked a little bit this week about finally getting the opportunity to play in this competition. We talked about how they hadn't taken it as seriously, and for some of the starters, they really wanted the chance to play in this competition and to work for that trophy, and now they get that chance.
It's certainly a storied competition when you look back at the teams that have won this, how they've won it, the kind of atmospheres that they won. And I think back last year to Philadelphia, who wasn't a great team in the league, but kind of rode some of that momentum. A good early opportunity there from Mike Grella. We've seen him play over the past couple matches with such confidence in terms of his ability in the final third. Here, Bradley Wright Phillips wins the knockdown ball, lays it back, Grella cuts, going to make another cut right here. He's probably wishing that he took a little bit of a better opportunity. He may have been able to hold on to the ball there for another half second or so, but Grella, over the past couple matches, has been easily the most dynamic player in the final third for the Red Bulls.
Grella with the goal in his last game against the Houston Dynamo, playing out there consistently now, 10 starts so far in 12 appearances this season. And with Sal Zizzo's injury, he's taken over that left wing role and has wowed fans a little bit with some of his moves, some of his creativity throughout the season.
And that's something that Grella wasn't necessarily known for, but it's something you're seeing now as he builds in confidence, his understanding of the league. This is a guy who spent most of his career overseas, England, playing in Scandinavia, and then coming over last year playing in the NASL. Now he has the opportunity to settle in, play at the MLS level. He trialed with the Red Bulls last year. He had an opportunity with City FC. Jesse Marsh comes in and gives Grella yet another opportunity. He took advantage of it in preseason, and now I think we're starting to see why Mike Grella, maybe his future isn't necessarily at left midfield, but could be a good target forward and someone with some good creativity up top.
Grella, an opportunity to play there. Closed out, though, by Kyle Porter. And Kyle Porter, a name familiar to MLS fans, spent time with the Canadian national team. Played in NASL earlier with FC Edmonton before going to DC United, and he's one of the major attacking threats on this team down that right wing that Gary Smith has. We've said they want to play on the counter. He's a guy with pace, and he's a guy who likes to take players one-on-one. He's
going to be an interesting one to watch. We've seen Roy Miller over the past year or so has had some difficulty with speed guys. Now, Roy Miller's a wily kind of veteran. He's played at a high level, been in World Cups, World Cup qualifiers. He's been a part of some of the most successful teams in franchise history here. But Kyle Porter's going to provide a challenge in terms of his speed.
Good ball in here from McCarty. Bradley Wright Phillips can't turn on it, able to hold it up, lays it back for Sam with the shot and the opening goal here in this 4th round matchup. Lloyd Sam in just the 7th minute, the assist from Bradley Wright Phillips, and a perfect start for the New York Red Bulls.
And that's exactly how you want to see the play develop. It was in transition, the speed of the ball moving from Dax McCarty's foot, threading the pass there to Bradley Wright Phillips. Takes a touch, no unnecessary touches, lays it off to Lloyd Sam from about 20 yards out, lasers it right in, and Seuss just wasn't able to do anything on that one. But the presence of mind of Wright Phillips to lay it off here, and then Sam with a good finish. It looks like Seuss perhaps was screened right there on that final play, but after a rocky couple minutes there to open the match, Red Bulls settling in nicely with a nice goal from Sam.
So Lloyd Sam here, of course, with his first goal in this competition. His 5th goal of the season, though. On fire he started this season, slowed down a bit over the last few games, but gets himself back on the score sheet for this ideal start for this New York Red Bulls team. And we saw 2 flashes before of a ball over the top to Bradley Wright Phillips being a little bit dangerous, and that one they're able to link up.
And that's what you like to see Dax McCarty do from that deep holding position, be able to pick up his head and then thread that ball about 35, 40 yards to Bradley Wright Phillips. I'm impressed with the ability of Wright Phillips to hold up, find space, and then be able to find Lloyd Sam, who read the situation perfectly.
First opportunity of the game here for Atlanta, already trailing 1-0 to get on the scoreboard on this corner kick attempt. Taken there from Paul Black, one at the far post, but it goes out tamely for a goal kick. And we know that this team wants to counter. So now trailing 1-0 in Atlanta, do you expect that they try and hold that game plan throughout the first half? Or do they try and open up a little bit and get themselves a goal as well?
Well, right now, barring any substitutions, it still looks like Atlanta's keeping kind of that empty bucket sort of shape. I think right now with the way the match has started, I mean, we're just only a handful of minutes in, but you don't want to let this thing get out of control. So settle in, play the way you had trained for the past day, 2 days to be able to come in here and enact that game plan. You don't want to get twisted around, if you will.
That one cleared out by Rashawn McKenzie. New York looks to knock it around now, able to play with that little bit of confidence. Now we do have to say, in the New York Red Bulls' last 2 games, as Felipe gets taken down there, or excuse me, Connor laid for a free kick, that New York led going into the 75th minute in both of their last 2 MLS games against Seattle and Houston, and fell in both those games to losses, those 2 on the road, of course, in MLS play. So not out of the hedges yet.
And certainly we are seeing right now the high press that Jesse Marsch wants his team. That was Lloyd Sam going at the right back, the left back rather, and being able to force that turnover. Right now, if the Red Bulls are able to do this, it's going to be difficult for Atlanta to escape out of their own half.
Pushing up this right side is the fullback Miller. Apanang keeping it alive and cycling around the back.
And Atlanta needs to pick up their ball movement right now. That's the only way. If you're going to be playing against a press team, it's not going to be anything you're going to do. If you're going to kick the ball, pump it up the field, it's going to be difficult to maintain that possession. Moving the ball quickly around, you're able to get the ball into the final third quickly.
And 9 games here tonight, 7 games tomorrow. The only way to keep up is to follow U.S. Soccer's coverage of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup on Twitter, @OpenCup. Follow @OpenCup on Twitter. Jeff Crandall does a phenomenal job there of keeping you up with all the action, and we'll try and keep you posted as things come through. 16 matches going on, 15 between an MLS side and a lower division side. 1 all MLS matchup. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. as the Seattle Sounders face off against the Portland Timbers. And a lot of people saying, Christian, that one of the favorites of the tournament could be out very early in that one.
When you're looking at any time those 2 teams meet, you can throw anything out the window right there. I'll be curious to see with Seattle, given the way that they've started the season, how seriously do they take this tournament? Do they feel that after all these years now of coming close in the MLS Cup, do they maybe have to rest some players, build some depth in the opening round or 2, and make a run, not just at the Supporters' Shield, but the MLS Cup?
That cross is tipped, easily taken in the end by Seuss. Seattle 4 U.S. Open Cup titles along with Chicago Fire, the two most successful MLS clubs in that competition. Bethlehem Steel, one of the great clubs in U.S. soccer history, as well as the New York Greek Americans, both have 4 as well. Unfortunately, Bethlehem Steel don't have a chance to add to that, Christian, so they can get overtaken quite easily.
But let's give some credit to the Philadelphia Union, who have a 3rd kit in honor of Bethlehem Steel. I like when teams acknowledge the history that surrounds them. It's perfect opportunity for Philadelphia in the Open Cup to don those jerseys, really kind of giving a tip of the hat to the history of one of the great teams in U.S. soccer.
This one goes out for a throw, and Philadelphia Union facing off against the Rochester Rhinos of the USL, tied 0-0 right now. They made it to the final of the tournament last year. Their head coach, Jim Curtin, won the U.S. Open Cup alongside the 3 guys we named with the Chicago Fire that are on the New York Red Bulls bench here tonight. And this tournament's starting to grow in history to the point where you have former players now coaching and telling their players about the history, about what the tournament used to mean.
And those were Chicago teams that I don't think any fan of this franchise, and it was then the Metro Stars back in those days, liked to see coming into Giants Stadium. I mean, that was a team that was feisty. They moved the ball quickly. They employed, not a surprise, a high pressing style, but they were a talented team. And if you were a Metro Stars fan, I think perhaps it was DC United #1 and then Chicago Fire #2 among the teams that you hated. And they kind of set the class for MLS there through some of those opening years after they entered the league in '98. And they took the Open Cup very seriously and were largely responsible for helping to raise it to the level that it is today.
Bangura called for the foul there, and Bob Bradley, Dave Sarakin's boys on those Chicago teams, known so well. DeMarcus Beasley came out of those teams. Of course, Jesse Marsh, John Wolnick played with them. Ante Razov, such great teams, such a good piece of history. New York Red Bulls trying to add a little bit of that as well. They won their first ever trophy 2 years ago, and now an opportunity here, once again, like we said, to add to that trophy case. Connor Lay pushing forward. Question slips, but it works well for him. They're looking to knock it around. It's intercepted off of Roy Miller's foot. Sasha Kleshin, another one of those guys like Lloyd Sam, who started out the season so hot, and then the numbers have started to slow down a little bit over this last 4 or 5 game period. Maybe as opposing teams in MLS get a little bit more used to what they're seeing from this New York Red Bulls team.
Well, this is a player, Sasha Kleshin, who wasn't brought in to be a big stat producer. And I think the fact that he's a former U.S. international somewhat isn't necessarily accurate of what his impact's going to be and how it's going to be judged. It's not going to be goals. It's not necessarily even going to be assists or secondary assists. What he does in terms of the shape of the team, the hard running that he consistently puts in, both on the offensive end and the defensive end, that's going to be more telling. How he helps this team kind of moving forward into the attack, that final pass that he's able to provide to spring somebody, that's how Sasha Kleshin is going to be judged.
A good play here, and it's saved and knocked back in and onside. And Ronald Zubar on his return gets the goal. He played 77 minutes in the opener, has been out injured since, and you can see the emotion from him and the hug from the coach as he finally gets on the field and gets himself a goal.
Oh, this is a player, Ronald Zubar, who hasn't seen the field in almost 3 months, but a well-taken corner kick right here, laid off by Dax McCarty. Sasha Kleshin slides it in, and then Ronald Zubar is there to provide the finish at the back post. But what a good story here for Zubar as he's the man on the spot, making his return to the lineup. And this is a player who, there were very high expectations for him coming in. He had high level of experience in the French first and second division, played in the English Premier League as well, gets hurt in the season opener, what was a very strong 2-2 result at Sporting Kansas City, was supposed to come back in time for a couple of the games. A couple weeks later, he was supposed to be back in time for City FC. He just had setback after setback, but now after seeing a specialist, Ronald Zubar has been able to kind of clarify things with the hamstring injury and then the quadricep injury. To see him score is just a good feel-good story to come out from tonight. May not be able to go the full 90, but certainly looking as probably a 60, 70-minute player.
And you could see the emotion from him as he ran towards the bench, yelling and hugging Jesse Marsh. And it's amazing. He only played those 77 minutes, and everyone was so thrilled to see how he played. And everyone around the New York Red Bulls was so excited about the quality that they felt he brought, even in just that short appearance, and now proving as he comes back an immediate impact for this team.
And there were some question marks about Zubar. I think fans perhaps saw a couple YouTube highlights and thought that this guy was going to be overly physical. He might end up being a liability on the field. But I think you have to give a lot of credit to Jesse Marsh and Ollie Curtis, the sporting director for the Red Bulls, who felt that there was going to be something there that could translate well to MLS. And this was a Red Bulls team that lost Jamison Olave in the offseason, has Matt Miazga, who's a very young center back. They were uncertain exactly how he was going to be able to translate now in his third year in MLS. But I think Zubar showed in that season opener that he can be a quality player. This is certainly a good night for him, at least 17, 18 minutes into the match, to be able to build on that performance.
And we've seen in such a short time a real connection between these players and this coach. And Jesse Marsh has brought in this system, and we saw how quickly it worked. They were the last team to fall to a defeat in the MLS season. They started so hot, and we just see how involved this coach is with this team and the connection that they've been able to create so quickly.
And it certainly is a locker room that I think is without stars, which could not be said over the past few years for the Red Bulls, certainly since coming into this building. But it is a locker room of guys who are willing to fight for each other, who seem to care for each other, and who also, I think, get the idea of playing for each other with a certain amount of pride.
Wright Phillips with the layoff. Lloyd Sam not able to get around Mensing there, and the first yellow card of the game goes to the captain, Simon Mensing, the German center back. And Bradley Wright Phillips with his back to goal, continuing to be able to create for his teammates. We've seen it a few times here today, and able to help draw that free kick, an opportunity for Lloyd Sam.
And I know a lot of people will talk about Bradley Wright Phillips in terms of his goal scoring last year, 27 goals, winning the Golden Boot. But what he kind of came in here with, his MO, if you will, when he was signed 2 years ago, was his hold-up play, his ability to run hard as central defenders. The goal scoring is just a nice bonus. I mean, when you had Thierry Henry for the past 4.5 years, you knew where your goal scoring was going to come from. You had that in Tim Cahill. The fact that last year Bradley Wright Phillips was as prolific as he was kind of gravy.
And the last thing you want to see in a game already leading 2-0 like this, one of your star players down on the field, Lloyd Sam, getting up. Now here, you could see the frustration from Mensing, though, on the first goal, getting in a bit of an altercation with his goalkeeper, Seuss. And you saw it come out there on that foul, getting beat on the dribble by Lloyd Sam, and then going to ground and taking him down as he looks to walk it off.
And Lloyd Sam is such an influential player as well for this team. Not only does he provide a certain amount of speed, which is kind of lacking on this roster, but he also has, there's a good look at Jason Sagini of MLSsoccer.com taking in the game in very casual fashion, may I add.
As always, he does. Fans, if you want to join Jason Sagini out here, come to the next MLS game Saturday, June 20th at 7 p.m. as West Coast Vancouver Whitecaps visit Red Bull Arena for the only time this season. For tickets and more information, visit NewYorkRedBulls.com or call 1-877-727-6223. Free kick taken and flashed high. Should be a phenomenal matchup. Vancouver, the second best team right now in the West, to test New York. But right here, a 2-0 lead for this New York Red Bulls team. Coming out, a lot of confidence, playing that high press, and really everything going right for them so far.
And it is a team that's been able to knock the ball around with a certain amount of confidence as well. They're catching Atlanta in transition. Their center backs are being spread apart. They're having to overcompensate for the numbers that New York is throwing into the attack right now.
Perenelle pushing it wide to Miller. Sgrello gets by the fullback there, Kyle Miller. Now a chance to cross to Bradley Wright Phillips, flicked away by Black. Connor Lade pushing high to keep it into attack. Lloyd Sam still off the field, so New York playing man down right now, but still pushing the attack, Christian.
And this is a team that right now, when things start to gel, when things start to click, you can begin to see exactly how they can move the ball around so quickly and catch teams, like I was just saying a couple minutes ago, really stretched out. Looks like Lloyd Sam perhaps is going to be coming off the field for good. I would expect, in all likelihood, Dane Richards, and it does look like it's going to be Dane Richards who's going to be making an early substitute appearance.
So Richards, an opportunity to check here and earn a little bit more playing time for himself on his return to New York Red Bulls. Just this season, hasn't had a lot of chances, but one thing that he brings to the game, Christian, is pace.
He certainly does, and I don't think it's been necessarily the return to MLS that Dane Richards kind of envisioned when he signed this past offseason. We haven't seen his trademark speed being thrown out consistently, but now with a run of about 65, 70 minutes in this match, perhaps Dane will be sprung a couple more times.
New York winning this ball back with that high press. The captain, Dax McCarty, patiently knocking it around. Sasha Kleshin, we've seen here, willing to drop deep to pick up that ball. Once again, New York still playing man down until that substitution is made. You see their willingness to continue to try and attack. You expect that would be a like-for-like move with Lloyd Sam, that Dane Richards would go wide right?
Well, Dane is the most likely one to go to the right-hand side. That's where he's most comfortable. He has played on the left-hand side kind of sporadically throughout his MLS career, as well as playing up top. But Dane Richards on the right side is probably where he's going to be most comfortable.
Free kick called there against Grella, pushing in the back of Kyle Miller.
I don't think Mike Grella agrees with that call. Just going out on a limb there.
So the substitution now officially made. The 24th minute, Dane Richards enters for Lloyd Sam. So Lloyd Sam, only 20 minutes, but he gets himself a goal in this one.
Yeah, Lloyd Sam was certainly the catalyst right now for how we've seen the Red Bulls be able to start in such a strong fashion. That laser from about 20 yards out. I think Seuss probably is going to go back and look at that game film and think that he could have done a little bit better on that opening salvo.
He was rooted to the spot on that one. Stuart Seuss standing at 6'6", but couldn't do anything to block that shot.
Goalkeeper's worst nightmare is to be beaten near post like that.
And you can see his defenders weren't happy with that as well. So it looks like Lloyd Sam will head off to the locker room. Got himself the goal, put his team ahead. Now we'll have the rest of the night off. That one goes against Connor Lade, the homegrown player out of St. John's University.
And this is going to be a very big match for Connor Lade. He's someone who last year kind of fell consistently down the depth chart to the point where in August he was loaned out to the New York Cosmos, did well, had a good spell there, returned back, and kind of was forgotten about again. But under Jesse Marsh, with a little bit of a clean slate, he's been able to step in, has seen some minutes as a substitute, has one start this season, has logged some pretty long minutes also in some other matches. And I think Connor Lade is somebody who has a very bright future in terms of what he can do with position versatility, with the ability that he has to overlap and bring some speed. It's just finding a position for him. The Red Bulls right now think that right back is a good spot for him. He can play left back. I even think perhaps holding mid might be a possibility for him at some point.
So Lloyd Sam has gone out injured, and the last thing New York Red Bulls fans want to see is Sasha Kleshin down on the ground after a slide there from Okafor. Our head referee going over to talk to him. Our head referee tonight, Eunice Marakji. Our assistant referees, Logan Brown and Joseph Zawatowski, and our fourth official, Ernie Constantine. And so far, they've had a lot of action. 2 goals, a substitution, fair amount of fouls called either way. A yellow card already issued to Simon Mensing, so a lot going on in this one. Sasha Kleshin back up seems to be fine, although has a few complaints for the assistant referee over on that far side.
Which is very unlike Sasha Kleshin.
Sasha Kleshin, Seton Hall grad, went to college here in the area before heading to MLS and then Europe, and returning this year to come and play under his former teammate Jesse Marsh for this New York Red Bulls 2 team and really seems to be enjoying this opportunity.
And the high press leading to yet another half opportunity for the Red Bulls right here. We saw what happens when you go at these center backs on Atlanta. There's just not the composure on the ball. And Mike Grella being able to register a turnover, being able to get another half chance.
Miller, a little bit of space here. New York Red Bulls very quick to push numbers into the attack.
We talked about a big opportunity for Connor Lade. For the other outside back here, it's also a pretty big opportunity. Roy Miller desperately needs to get himself into the starting 11. Kamar Lawrence, who's currently away with the Jamaican national team in Copa America, has done a tremendous job at the position. This is a big match for Miller.
Chance to stretch. Dane Richards' legs finally gets the cross, and Bradley Wright-Phillips was on the ground. It was easily taken by Seuss. Bradley Wright-Phillips with his arms out. Great end-to-end action, though. Atlanta getting into the box. A good opportunity for them, and then immediately the counter through Dane Richards' speed.
And that's the danger of this high press. You can get caught up the field, and if you don't keep your defensive shape among that back four, you can get stretched apart even with one or two attacking players. But I think a lot of credit to the Red Bulls, who settled things down quickly, were then able to create another opportunity down the field. And I think Bradley Wright-Phillips with a little bit of contact received there right about the 6-yard box, or else we could be talking about a 3-0 scoreline.
The Red Bull supporters out in good voice here on a gorgeous Tuesday night as we kick off the 4th round of Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup action. David Goss and Christian Dyer here on NewYorkRedBulls.com. New York getting off to a very good start. Lloyd Sam in the 7th minute, and Ronald Zubar with a goal in his return in the 16th. The Atlanta Silverbacks now look to try and get themselves back into this game. And we've seen New York haven't taken their foot off the gas yet, Christian. Continuing that high press, and that's what Jesse Marsh wants.
And I think this is a team that probably wants to go into the locker room with another goal, be able to get some of the guys off the field and give some of the younger players an opportunity.
This one alive in the box, but falls only to Paul Black, young Englishman. Gonna get around. Dane Richards does well to get it up the field too. Bangura, the leading goal scorer on the season, is taken down by Zubar, and we see that physicality there.
And Zubar is a player who certainly won't shy away from physical contact. I think perhaps in another week or two, does he make a challenge like that? No. But the fitness is still coming in, and we saw him over the past week or so in training get acclimated more and more into the small-sided games, into the physical side of things, more than just fitness. So some of these parts, his ability to read the game, his sharpness is going to come back sooner rather than later.
Connor Lade reading that one. Goes up to the feet, question. Mensing able to intercept. Simon Mensing, born in Germany but raised in England, came up through the England system. You mentioned a few of these players for Atlanta coming through, playing time in the championship, the first division. Gary Smith, the head coach, similar background, Coach Stevenage, came through, coached at Watford as well, so he knows the English game as well as knowing the American game, and it's given him a good opportunity to bring talent in from both sides.
And a lot of the players that we see on this Atlanta team also played for the Canadian national team, the under-20 national team, where a lot of their influences over the past probably decade and a half or so have been on the more English side, the English style, playing in the championship, League One, League Two, a lot of the national team players. So it's not surprising to see that that's who Gary Smith is going to go for in terms of his player personnel as he tries to put together this team.
Reed shot blocked there. Speaking of the Canadian national team, they're in action tonight in World Cup qualifying. Carl, we met New York Red Bulls. Started with that team, and they lead 1-0 right now over Dominica, but New York Red Bulls trying to make it a 3-0 lead here. That pass blocked. Richards with the follow-up shot, taken easily by Seuss.
And perhaps a little too unselfish there from Bradley Wright-Phillips. I know he's enjoyed playing the role of provider tonight, kind of that playmaker maestro at the top of the formation. But you want to see Bradley Wright-Phillips, someone who found the back of the net 27 times last year. He gets this ball right here. You don't want him passing it off to Sasha Kleshtin. You want him taking that opportunity. I think Dane Richards did well on that play with the opportunity from about 22 yards out.
Bradley Wright-Phillips, 5 goals so far this season. He's in the All-Star voting Vote for your favorite New York Red Bulls players in this 2015 MLS All-Star match. Voting is open now and ends on July 3rd. Visit NewYorkRedBulls.com today to vote. Bradley Wright Phillips, 4 assists, only had 2 assists last year alongside those 27 goals. You mentioned Thierry Henry, of course, leaving this team. His role has now changed, but he seems to be enjoying it.
And he's being asked to do some different things last year, which other than just getting on the end of through balls from Thierry Henry, which Wright Phillips did so well. And Henry was actually one of the biggest critics of Wright Phillips. And at first glance, that sounds shocking. Guy scores 27 goals, ties the all-time scoring lead in league history, and you're being hard on him. But Henry was saying this is a guy, he should have had 40, he should have had 50 goals. And that's vintage Henry, wanting more from his teammates and the guys around him. And this year, you're asking Wright Phillips to play a little bit more of a creative role, to be able to spring other players, draw attention, take on a different role. And I think the designated player has responded well. He doesn't seem terribly frustrated right now at what's being asked for him to do, even though it isn't as glamorous as last year.
People were worried about that Henry effect. We saw Kenny Cooper score a lot of goals. Luke Rogers score a lot of goals.
I scored a couple goals
playing alongside
Henry.
Henry.
Yes.
Potentially your fiance may have scored a couple. Grella able to get into some space here. That left-footed shot, he tries to go near post, and it's a kick stave for Seuss, out for a corner kick.
Talk about feeling it right now. A little bit of Magic Mike right here, getting sprung down that left channel. Well-timed run, holding it up, then being able to deftly move to the left-hand side. One more move, absolutely posterizing the defender, and then well taken by Seuss to cover up that near post.
And we've seen when Grella starts to get confident like he did against Philadelphia and Houston, how much creativity he has in his game. This corner kick taken to the near post, flicked on by McCarty. And in the celebration of Zubar's goal, we failed to mention how well taken that corner kick was. The near post on the ground, laid off perfectly for Kleshton's shot right off the training ground.
I believe I actually did say that, David. So
I apologize.
I think
I was excited.
I think we're about 6 or 7 minutes too late on that one, but it was a well-executed one. It was like they drew it up on the training ground. We had the opportunity to watch that one go in practice, and it was a good one. Well taken by Felipe. And there have been some struggles from Felipe this year on set pieces, but that's one that worked almost perfectly.
Richards with the high pressure here. Gets called for the foul over the back of Paul Black. So Atlanta looks to take it quickly. Atlanta hasn't been able to get going offensively so far in this game as we approach the 35th minute of this one.
And Atlanta seems content right now just to pump the ball up the field, specifically down that right channel, trying to be able to find their target forwards for some hold-up play, and that's just not going to work right now. They need to move the ball faster. They need to find the players in transition. They need to push up and begin, I think, pinching in a little bit more centrally, concede the wings perhaps to New York, but be content to pinch in, move their wide players into a more central location.
And Coach Gary Smith came over to the U.S. with Arsenal to set up an academy in Colorado, with the connection between those two clubs. Ended up taking over as an interim manager in 2009, and then the full-time manager. Won the MLS Cup in 2010 over FC Dallas up in Toronto. And that was a team with Connor Casey up top, with Matt Kanji as well, Omar Cummings, that had a lot of size on that front line and looked to play very direct. And they were able to win a championship. But Coach Smith said to me he only had 2 guys on the championship team that were there when he started. So it takes a little while for that style and that system to get comfortable and for a team to get built.
A lot of size and also a lot of speed on that team. When you're talking about Makumba Kanji, who's the connection between Gary Smith and this New York Red Bulls team. Kanji being a player who did well for this organization for a few seasons before moving on to Colorado and eventually winning an MLS Cup, and now forging a fairly successful career in Europe. But you don't want just speed right now, and especially when you're playing an MLS team with nearly their full complement of starters, you're going to need someone to stretch the field, to be able to use some speed, to be able to catch the teams on the counterattack. I just don't see right now Atlanta being willing to do that.
So Rashawn McKenzie receiving a yellow card there. McKenzie, a guy who spent a long time in MLS, drafted by the Kansas City Wizards at the time, Played with RSL Chivas USA as well as the Portland Timbers. McKenzie picks up that yellow, so both center backs now for Atlanta have picked up a yellow card so far in this first half. Martins takes this one, floated to the far post. Seuss punches hard and clears it away. Slade looks to keep this one in the attack. All 11 players for Atlanta back behind the ball. McCarty slitting out wide. Puts it on the foot of Wright Phillips, and Wright Phillips puts it over the top.
And Dax McCarty, not exactly known as being a creative playmaker, finding some space there along that right channel, being able to lay the ball back right here. But it was a good move by McCarty to create a little space to bring it back to his left foot. And I think Wright Phillips perhaps rushed that shot a little bit. In MLS, he would have thought that he wouldn't have had quite as much time as he had in this match.
And we still see this Atlanta defense a little disorganized, not able to handle with what New York has put in front of them so far in this game. And New York not happy with the score that they have, continuing to push as we have the player down. It looks like Jaime Chavez in that center circle. Jaime Chavez and Matt Horth have battled for that starting forward role alongside Bangura. And it's Chavez that gets the start today, bringing that little bit more speed. USsoccer.com is your source for full coverage of the 2015 Lamar Hunt US Open Cup. And you can also follow coverage of the tournament on Twitter at Open Cup. On Thursday at 10 a.m., US Soccer will live stream the draw for the next round, the round of 16. The entire tournament will be put into 4 regions, and teams will learn their round of 16 opponent and then who they'll face off against potentially in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, as well as who has earned the right to host. As we see here, though, got the goal scoring started early. Lloyd Sam with the first one.
And so unselfish there from Wright Phillips, just being able to kind of lay it back, almost looking like a Michael Jordan, if you will, just giving the assist with such ease and confidence. And I like this corner kick here. Sasha Kleshtin firing it in through a crowded box, and Ronald Zubar. Not sure if anyone thought Ronald Zubar's name was going to be on the scorer's sheet, but great comeback story. A player who's been out for 3 months, giving that emotional hug to Jesse Marsch. Jesse Marsch kept saying, we believe in this guy. We believe he's going to turn things around. We believe that Ronald Zubar is a good fit for us. I think we saw tonight one of the things he can bring, a little bit of a knack for goal.
So we have the official substitution.
It looks like Chris Christian came in. He's going to be taking that role up top, kind of in the midfield alongside Chavez, or in place of Chavez.
So Chris Christian checking in for Rashawn McKenzie at center back. That's why we had a bit of confusion. Jaime Chavez remains in up top. Rashawn McKenzie picked up that yellow card, and we said both center backs playing on a yellow card. So Christian checks in there. You see him with the afro alongside Simon Mensing. Bangura looks to break now, running at speed at Zubar. New York Red Bulls defense on their heels very few times so far this season. Chavez able to keep that one alive right in front of the assistant referee. Paranel has to put it out of bounds.
And Bangura is one of those interesting players. You know, he had just 2 goals this year, leading Atlanta in scoring. But he's someone who comes in playing, with the playing pedigree from Southeast Asia. Also has spent time in Europe as well, in Cyprus, in their first division. So he's well traveled. Perhaps not the highest level of competition, but we've seen the spurts throughout this NASL season exactly what he can bring in terms of creativity, vision. He picks his head up and makes a simple pass right there to earn a deep throw-in for his team.
He has started consistently for this team this season. 9 starts and 10 appearances. It's really been everyone else's job to try and earn the starting spot alongside him. Felipe now a chance to turn. You'd expect them to try and test the center back substitution, as You don't normally have a center back. You sure he wasn't prepared to come in the 40th minute.
And McKenzie's someone who has played every minute so far this year alongside Mensing. So you've got two experienced center backs. All of a sudden you're throwing in, Christensen, a player who hasn't seen too much action yet this year, going up against an MLS team on the road, down to 2-0. It's certainly not the easiest of situations.
This one out of bounds for a throw in to Atlanta. So Atlanta's been able to stop the bleeding.
We just saw Bradley Wright Phillips there waving his arms, telling his teammates, come on, let's pinch in, don't let them out.
This foul call is going to go against Connor Lade on that far side. Not the first time, but just a talking to from our head official for Lade. Just the 2 cards shown so far in this one. Both of them to Atlanta. This Atlanta team was in the Soccer Bowl just 2 seasons ago in 2013. They also made their best U.S. Open Cup run as well that same season. They lost to the Chicago Fire in the quarterfinals. At that time under Eric Winalda, who has become synonymous now with this competition after his time as a player and then as a coach with Cal FC. Bradley Wright Phillips leading by example there, Christian. He wants his team to high press. He wants them to get into these defensive players and doing it himself there.
And how many times do you see a designated player in MLS willing to do that level of work? Here's Bradley Wright Phillips in a U.S. Open Cup match against a second division side, kind of willing his team on. I can't help but think, though, if maybe this opening 45 minutes will be all we see of Bradley Wright Phillips tonight. Perhaps we see Anatola Abong get an opportunity in the second half, someone who scored Friday night in the 4-2 loss at Houston. I think Abong has a very bright future. Technically, he needs some work from a tactical sort of point of view, but if he can get it straightened out, he's got as much talent as anyone on the field for the Red Bulls.
Question turns that one over to Chavez. Porter going one-on-one, tackled away by McCarty. And Anatola Abong, a guy I think some people are saying similar to someone you mentioned before, Matt Kanji, who kind of comes out of nowhere, has a lot of natural ability, still looking to put it together, but if he can be a fearsome player in this league.
And Jesse Marsh told me a few weeks ago about Abong. There are just times we look at him on the practice field and said, how did he do that? And I don't know if the Red Bulls have had someone on their roster over the past 6 years, with the exception of Thierry Henry, who you could say that about, that kind of complementary player. If he can put it together tactically in terms of his awareness, where he should be, how he should press, where he should be in terms of support in the final third, the types of runs he should be making, he could be a very dangerous player.
Still only 18, maybe we'll see him later. Right now, Dax McCarty trying to keep the offensive pressure on, plays that one wide to Lade. Lade trying to cut in. Knocked off of Paul Blacken out for a throw-in. As we approach the 45-minute mark here at Red Bull Arena, David Goss and Christian Dyer bringing you this 4th round Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup matchup. There'll be 1 minute of added time in this one.
I think it's been a very good opening half for Connor Lade. I think it's a good thing that they were able to get Lade on the field tonight, being able to give him the opportunity, some good consistent minutes with the starting 11 as well. I mean, this is a first choice team out there, and he certainly is looking like someone who fits in. He's moving well into the attack. Defensively, the shape that he's keeping with that back four and the communication, I think it's been flawless, and he's gotten stuck in on a few plays as well.
That one knocked out as we enter stoppage time here in the first half. New York Red Bulls continuing to push, look for that third goal.
Dave, just so you know, I checked the fact book, there is no record of my fiance scoring any goals with Thierry Henry.
Okay, there you go. That is the only person I think who hasn't scored a goal. The foot of Thierry Henry. Porter pushing this one forward. Christian, who came in off the bench, for Rashawn McKenzie. Getting a couple touches on the ball, hasn't really had a chance to settle in. And Bradley Wright Phillips not making it life easy for him. But we have our whistle, and what a first half it has been for the New York Red Bulls, getting off to a quick 2-0 lead, an opening goal from Lloyd Sam in the 7th minute before he was forced out by substitution, and a second goal in the 16th from Ronald Zubar. Christian, I don't think Jesse Marsh could have asked for anything more.
No, certainly not. This was a team that took their chances very well, created a plethora of opportunities outside of a Lloyd Sam injury, which we're still kind of, holding our breath over exactly what went down. Certainly not good to see him go straight to the locker room, but you got 45 minutes for Ronald Zubar. You came out of it with a 2-0 lead. I want to see some of the young guys in the second half.
And for Coach Smith, it was a tough beginning, but after the 16th minute, they played a little bit more even with New York. What's he telling his guys in this locker room?
Well, I think he's telling them now's the time to push forward. This first opening 10 or 15 minutes, if they can pull back a goal, they can make this entire thing a little bit dangerous, a little bit interesting in the second half. First 15 minutes have to be strong for Atlanta.
So we'll be back on NewYorkRedBulls.com with all of your second half action in a few minutes. back here on NewYorkRedBulls.com for the second half of action. But first, let's look at these first half highlights. A 2-0 lead for New York Red Bulls over the Atlanta Silverbacks in this fourth round. And Christian, Ronald Zubar, he's been hurt, he's fought back, he's had issues, and you see there the relationship, the trust between him and his coach, and he gets the goal in his return.
And we're going to talk about the goal, but let's talk about him defensively as well. I think it had to be considered an impressive start. I know Atlanta did not have the ball an awful lot in the final third, but Zubar stayed tight there with Damian Peronel, was able to keep the shape organization-wise. I think it was a good 45 minutes for Zubar. I think that's all we're going to see of him. It looks like Jean-Baptiste is going to be coming in for his first minutes with the senior team this season.
So Andrew Jean-Baptiste checking in at halftime in place of Zubar. Second substitution of the game. Lloyd Sam came out early in the first half in place of Dane Richards. Andrew Jean-Baptiste, a guy who's played a lot of time in Major League Soccer throughout his career. Started this season injured, has played heavy time with New York Red Bulls 2 in the USL, and now getting an opportunity to play with this first team here in the US Open Cup.
And he's sort of bounced around a little bit with Portland over the past couple of years, and then Chivas USA making the move midway through the year. It's taken him a while to get settled in. He came in on trial with the Red Bulls while they were in Florida. They saw something they liked in him. I mean, he's a young guy still in his early 20s, just got called up to the Haiti national team, the Provisional 35 squad for this summer's upcoming Gold Cup. He's a strong guy, he's a physical guy, he's got good lateral speed. It remains to be seen again, just like we mentioned in the first half with Anatole Bong, technically, is he where Jesse Marsch wants him to be? When you're playing center back in a high press style, you have to be dedicated, you've got to be tuned in at all times. It's not just the physical attributes, it's the ability to read the game. And for a young defender like Jean-Baptiste, that's going to be the challenge.
So Atlanta has to come out here, push the play a little bit, trailing 2-0 in this game. They look to do that here through Chavez as his header flashes wide and goes out for a goal kick. But the best look of the game, you have to say, for this Atlanta team.
Yeah, being able to get on the end of that run, the ball being swerved in from the right side, right about the 6-yard box, being able to dissect the center backs, cutting right between Jean-Baptiste and Damian Peronel there. Flash header. If that goes in the back of the net, we're talking about a very different second half.
No substitutions at halftime for Atlanta. One in the first half for Sean McKenzie. The right center back went out for Chris Christian, who came in, a South Orange, New Jersey native, so back here in his local area as well, a Villanova grad, getting an opportunity to play back in his home state. He's moved into left center back and swapped spots with Mensing. Didn't really have much work to do in the first half when he came in. So New York will look to test him a little bit here in this second half. Mensing with that pressure on, able to break it. Get it out to Miller. Kyle Porter, who didn't have a lot of space in the first half here with his second opportunity to cross as it goes wide. You can see, though, maybe for Atlanta focusing, trying to get Kyle Porter the ball with space here on this right side to start the second half.
And they were trying to do that in the first half, but Porter was doing so much work defensively under the, as they were under the press of the New York Red Bulls, that he didn't have the opportunity to move very much beyond the midfield line.
Luis Robles, who hasn't had much work to do so far, takes that one. And for you, Luis Robles played every single minute for the New York Red Bulls, but didn't get an opportunity to play in the Open Cup last year. Ryan Mira played in that game, has played every single minute so far this season, and now he gets a chance to play in this competition.
And let's be honest, Luis Robles should be getting a chance to play in the Gold Cup. Here's a guy who's probably one of the top American goalkeepers in the league. I know we're talking about Bill Hamid and some of the other ones, but I think Luis Robles and his steadying presence, he's forever going to be tainted by that performance against Haiti a few years ago. Was not his best moment. Now getting consistent first-team minutes at the MLS level with the saves he's been pulling off, with what he's been able to do with some, let's be honest, some pretty bad backlines over the past couple of years here in New York. They've left him out to dry on a number of occasions. Luis Robles should be on the radar of Jurgen Klinsmann. Why he's not, I guess he's not a German.
2013, he was fourth in Goalkeeper of the Year voting in MLS. Did play in Germany over the course of a few years. And what if he did play for this Gold Cup team? Full circle, it would be that game versus Haiti in the group stage in Gillette Stadium. And once again this year, the U.S. men's national team will play against Haiti in Gillette in the group stage in the Gold Cup, so it could be full circle for Robles if he gets that look, which he hasn't gotten yet under Jurgen Klinsmann. Was in the 2009 Gold Cup as well as Confederations Cup rosters under Bob Bradley. It's fallen off that radar, as you've said, and has consistently been over the last 3 years. Everyone would say probably between him and Nick Raimondo as the best goalkeeper in MLS.
And Gary Smith just looking there kind of stoically on as that pass sails out of bounds. If you're Atlanta, every pass you have is precious right now. You need to retain that possession. You don't only not have to move the ball quickly, you have to move it accurately as well. And we saw for the first opening few minutes of this second half, but now all of a sudden New York starts to get their legs under them once again coming out from halftime, and we're seeing the press system just kind of getting to the better of Atlanta.
And I apologize, but we missed a substitution here for New York. Sean Davis checked in at halftime as well in place of Sasha Kljestan. So all 3 substitutions for New York have been used. You saw Davis there with the chest playing behind that front line as well. So New York has made their 3 changes so far. Like you expected, Zubar wasn't going to go the full game. Unfortunately, they had to use a substitution on an injury for Sam, and then they try and get Sasha Kljestan a couple minutes of rest.
And let's look ahead in the schedule here. Red Bulls play a very good Vancouver team on Saturday, needing the 3 points. There should be a good crowd here at Red Bull Arena for that match. But then they also play Wednesday against Real Salt Lake, a team that they've traditionally struggled against. And then the following Sunday, they've got a derby match against City FC. So there's going to be a busy slate of games ahead. Being able to get Sasha Kljestan, perhaps the most important player in your midfield right now in terms of the passing that he does, the pressing that he does, that's going to be an important thing. So to get him off the field and then being able to get Davies on as well. Here's a guy, Jesse Marsh has reached out to the U.S. national team setup, the under-23 setup, said this is someone to look for come Olympic qualifying. He's seen a couple minutes here and there in the MLS regular season. USL, he's shown very well. As a matter of fact, I think he's been looking better in those matches than Leo Stoles, their first-round pick, the Herman Award winner as college soccer's best player. But right now, being able to get Davies, getting him a run out on the field, it's going to be important now for his confidence for future depth as well.
Don't forget to follow U.S. Soccer's coverage of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup on Twitter, @OpenCup. Once again, that's @OpenCup. All of the action out there in Chicago out of Soccer House by Jeff Crandall. Sean Davis, an opportunity to get some minutes here in this one. And we did get some sort of confirmation that Lloyd Sam leaving with a groin and ankle injury down in the locker room being looked at currently. So we will get any more updated news if we get it for you. Always make sure to check out NewYorkRedBulls.com for all of your New York Red Bulls information, as well as to follow the news on the team as they go along. What Christian described as a heavy and tough stretch, but this is the summer in Major League Soccer. This is where games really start to pour on and the season really starts to push forward. And it's been a stop-and-go start of the season, Christian, for this New York team. Started out extremely hot, the hottest team in the league. Then this slower stretch over these last 5 games. A good performance so far in this one, though, to open up. And we talked about the opportunity this cup gives you to maybe turn the page a little bit on what's going on from the league structure, and an opportunity, of course, to get a trophy, but just to get some better feelings going around the club. And so far, it looks like New York has taken advantage of that.
And this is what you want to get from the Open Cup. Not only do you want to advance, it is a pressure situation. Win or you go home. That does amplify things perhaps a little bit more than an MLS regular season game, but you're able to put some new players out there, try some different things tactically that you want. Right now, everything's been a success. The one thing you want to see if you're Jesse Marsh, other than coming out of this match with no more injuries and certainly the win to be able to advance, you want Bradley Wright Phillips to get on the scoreboard. Here's a guy who has found it hard to find the back of the net and from the run of play. Get him a goal in this second half if you can. Keep feeding it to him until he's able to get it. Perhaps he can carry that onto the field Saturday afternoon against Vancouver.
This one goes out for a throw-in. I do have to mention there is, we said earlier, some New York Red Bulls players in action across the world right now, and one of them being Kamar Lawrence, who had the opportunity to get a start and play a full 90 minutes against Paraguay down in Copa America. This team falling 1-0 in that one, so their second 1-0 loss in that competition. Canada leading 3-0 over Dominica in World Cup qualifying. Carl Ouimet not yet checked into that game. And 2-0 here for the New York Red Bulls. A lot of action going on, a lot of soccer going on across the world, and we will try and keep you updated on all of it here.
Women's World Cup and then another Open Cup game tomorrow in New York City.
And I wasn't going to mention it right all on top of each other, but if you bring it up, I will. USA leading 1-0 at halftime over Nigeria in that one. And who else but Abby Wambach with the goal. That women's national team, their final send-off game was here at Red Bull Arena right before they headed up to Canada, and all the members of the New York Red Bulls front office as well as teams supporting them. Kyle Porter, though, a chance to run right now, gets it wide to Chavez. Chavez shot come in wide of that near post. A great look again here in the second half from Jaime Chavez.
And that is the danger of Atlanta when they get started moving the ball quickly, and Kyle Porter perhaps being the fastest player on this Atlanta roster, they can be a dangerous team. Being able to lay that ball off into space with Chavez, was able to take a turn. I think he should have probably gone back post on that effort instead of near post. Robles was well positioned.
So Robles doesn't have to make a save once again in that first half. He made 0 saves. Stuart Seuss made 3 saves, as well as taking the ball out of the back of his net 2 times. And a bad tackle there. Felipe is down, and a card coming for, it looks like, Bangura. Just a yellow card, so another yellow card issued to Atlanta, this time to Shaka Bangura.
And Felipe is probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But on the soccer field, you do not want to get between him and the ball, and that's what Bangura did, and Bangura gets the yellow card for it.
So another yellow card issued here. 3 so far in this game. Sean McKenzie, who was issued 1, went out. Felipe back up on his feet and ready to play. It's our captain, McCarty. Takes it, and this 11 out there for New York will finish up the game with those 3 substitutions used already. Sean Davis looking to close down. A little bit more space right now. Dane Richards does well to close down that space, though, quickly, and not a lot of players think someone's going to catch up ground on them like Dane Richards does.
What's worrisome about that play was it was an early giveaway from Jean-Baptiste there. We're seeing perhaps a little bit of the jitters, the fact that he's rusty. He's only played in USL action, hasn't been with the first team at all this year. He has been on the game day roster a few times. There was thought that perhaps in Houston on Friday he might get the start, but Roy Miller instead got the start at center back with all the injury woes and everything else. The Red Bulls have been going through 2 international call-ups to center backs. Carl Ouimet and Matt Miazga really taking its toll on the defensive depth for this team. And Jean-Baptiste needs to tidy this up a little bit more if he's going to start to be included in Jesse Marsh's plans for the future.
Dane Richards wide right here. So New York has this sustained possession now, and what a luxury Roy Miller has been at that left back position. This one knocked out. Is a left back, but stands at 6'2", has the height to play in the middle, has played there in Costa Rica's 3-5-man back line at times, and stepped in and played strongly there for New York over the last few games.
And there were probably a lot of Red Bulls fans who didn't think Roy Miller would even be with this team. He's now the longest tenured member of the New York Red Bulls. He was one of the first signings of former head coach Hans Backe. He survived, I believe it's now up to 3 sporting directors, as many head coaches as well. He's been through a lot, he's seen a lot, but he's brought a certain amount of stability. And I know he may not be the flashiest of left backs. He can deliver a decent cross. Defensively, in terms of shape, he's very solid as well. I think he's going to be one of those guys, when we look back at Dane Richards' career, we will probably say he's going to be close to an all-time best 11 in franchise history.
Roy Miller, the only player with the team right now that was here when this building was opened against Santos a number of years ago.
And who scored the first goal in Red Bull Arena history in that match?
I'm going to say it was Neymar.
I'll give you a hint, a New York Red Bull.
I was in the building at the time.
Wow.
And that shows where my memory stands right now.
It shows how many beers you had as well.
Oh, absolutely not.
We're talking Joel Lindper,
the
the Estonian assassin.
Who's still playing professionally.
He is. He just received his 100th cap with the Estonian national team this past weekend.
An opportunity maybe here for Atlanta to counter while we reminisce about our favorite Estonian internationals, of course. Perinel able to handle that one. Get in the way, gives up the corner kick opportunity. And all the big bodies coming forward now for this Atlanta team. Center backs Christian and Mensing, as well as Opong, pushing into the box. And you always hear it, and everyone always says it, but 2-0, the most dangerous lead in the game. New York feeling comfortable with an opportunity for Atlanta. They could be right back in it.
And when you're also looking at a situation where the rest of your squad has to now go the full 90 minutes, New York needs to make sure that they balance not running out of gas by about the 80th minute or so, because they don't have any more substitutions, but also being able to go full throttle, catching Atlanta, perhaps getting that third goal and putting this thing away.
Roy Miller wins that one. And eventually it is played out. Don't forget the New York Red Bulls return to MLS action this Saturday, June 20th at 7 p.m. as West Coast foe Vancouver Whitecaps visit Red Bull Arena for the only time this season. For tickets and more info, visit NewYorkRedBulls.com or call 1-877-727-6223.
And now we have former New York Cosmo Hans Dennison coming into the match for Dominic Opong. Opong, someone who really didn't show exactly what I think he's fully capable of. Guy played for the Canadian under-20s, has some experience in Europe with the Finnish second division. He's someone who, if he's playing well, can control and kind of dictate the flow of the game. But again, helping out defensively, being one of those deep-lying midfielders, he adds some bite to the game. We didn't really see a whole lot of that from him tonight, as Dax McCarty, Sasha Kleshin, and Felipe have bossed things for New York all night long.
And Dennison will bring a different look to this team. That natural number 10, 31-year-old Dutchman, 2013 NASL Best 11 with the San Antonio Scorpions. Spent last year with the New York Cosmos, a little bit of an underwhelming season for him. But one thing when you look at his numbers across his career is he has scored goals everywhere he has been. So Dennison will play that number 10 role behind Chavez and Bangura. Richards here gets it across to Bradley Wright Phillips, and his second good look of the game, and he puts it over once again.
And what a delicately played ball there from Richards, perfectly weighting it across the face of the goal and finding space. I think it was an intelligent run here from Wright Phillips, who's just hanging off the defender's back shoulders, knowing Richards going to play it there to the penalty area. I think Wright Phillips, probably 9 times out of 10, puts that in the back of the goal right now. But this is a little bit of what I was talking about earlier with Wright Phillips. The guy needs to start getting going. We've seen him score off PKs this year. Run of play has been a different thing, and I know that Jesse Marsh has been asking him to do some different things in the final third than he was asked to last year, which was purely finish. But you want to see Wright Phillips begin to get some joy there in the penalty area. That's one he should have put away.
He has an assist so far in this game on Lloyd Sam's goal. He set up Grella and Kleshin 1 or 2 times, but like you said, once again, gets an opportunity to score and can't put it away in this one. And he's got another half an hour to go in this one. They won't be able to substitute for him, which maybe some people had thought that he wouldn't make it through 90 in this game. And so he's got to have a couple maybe goal-scoring looks to try and get himself back on the scoring sheet.
And there will be space in this game if he makes the good runs. And I know some people on Facebook were giving me some shtick earlier for my Michael Jordan comparison. I stand by it. When this guy is out there playmaking in the final third, he is something. He's got a good vision. He has good composure on the ball. I do not take back my Michael Jordan comparison. Tough.
So the critics have spoken, and Christian has responded.
He's not listening anymore. I'm logging off.
As we continue here on this one, New York pressuring high. A couple of looks. I don't know how much people would say Michael Jordan was that much of a passer, but that's a conversation, I think, for another night. Connor Lade reads that one well, sits up for him. Can't get the cut back on Reed. Reed pushing it forward to Chavez.
Michael Jordan was a scorer through and through, but when he wanted to pass the ball, he would draw that double team and then dish it off. I stand by your criticism as well.
Ha. Christian making friends all night. Christian, we know how to pick it, by the way. 5 games kicked off in U.S. Open Cup play. Only 1 has a goal. It's this one, and we're up 2-0.
But you see how teams now are approaching the U.S. Open Cup as the USL is getting more competitive, as well as the NASL. MLS teams just can't roll out their second and third tier guys anymore like we've seen in years past. And there's a lot more depth now in the second and third divisions throughout U.S. soccer. That's a testament to the growth of the American player, but also more international players, players that we used to see from the Caribbean that were consistently part of MLS, now finding their opportunities not in this league, but with the NASL, with the USL, and that's only enhancing competitions like this.
This is the largest ever U.S. Open Cup tournament with 91 teams entering at the start. Roy Miller pulls that one back, and it's guided. Looks like it'll go out of bounds by Reed. Nope, saved in. Out off of Okafor. This is the 4th round of competition, 17 MLS teams entering. Bradley Wright Phillips knocks that one down off the defender and taken in the end by Seuss.
And that's what you want to see from Wright Phillips, getting himself in a good position there on the edge of the 6-yard box. This was a well-struck ball there from Felipe, and Wright Phillips finding some space there between the 2 central defenders. Again, if this is 2014, chances are Wright Phillips is dusting off one of his goal celebrations.
So now it looks like Roy Miller down on the far side as the trainer comes out to help him out. At the same time, we're going to have a substitution whenever they get the opportunity to do that. It looks like Alex Harley's going to check in place of Shaka Bangura. An interesting substitution. Bangura, the best goal-scoring option on this team, but he goes out. Alex Harley will come in, 22-year-old Togolese striker. And Bradley Wright Phillips, we said, have struggled to score this game, but he sets up Lloyd Sam to get us started.
And a very unselfish play there, and a well-taken opportunity from Sam to shoot from distance, a laser of an opportunity. But a lot of players probably would have tried to have gone in on goal on that one. And again, we're talking about the Ronald Zubar moment right here, just being able to be at the right spot, anticipating where the rebound was going to be, and most importantly, holding himself not in an onside position.
So Harley checks in here. Number 14, the 22-year-old Togolese midfielder slash forward in his 2nd season with the Atlanta Silverbacks. He's never scored for the team.
Fair to say Gary Smith is hoping that Harley will rev things up for Atlanta.
And that's why we pay him the big bucks there. Da-da-da.
Don't forget to tip your waitresses.
Harley, one interesting fact, Togolese native, nephew of, I think, one of the only Togolese soccer players people can really name, Emmanuel Adebayor. So Okafor takes a knock in the back going down. So we'll have a free kick in favor of the Atlanta Silverbacks. Just south of 70 minutes played so far here. This 4th round U.S. Open Cup matchup between the New York Red Bulls of MLS and the Atlanta Silverbacks of the NASL. David Goss and Christian Dyer here on NewYorkRedBulls.com. Of course, your source for all of your New York Red Bulls news. New York, if they were able to get through in this game, or Atlanta, if they were able to come back, will learn their next round opposition on Thursday, but still plenty of time left to play here in this one.
Have to think that the winner of that New York versus New York matchup will end up playing the Red Bulls if they should advance.
That header get pushed wide there from Miller. From Kyle Miller to Roy Miller. Wright Phillips dropping deep, picks up the ball. Bradley Wright Phillips, a good week so far for him. He got married this weekend. His brother, Sean Wright Phillips, another professional soccer player who played around the English Premier League in town, has been training with New York, but they say it's just for a little bit of fun and fitness. A layoff here for Sean Davis. The left-footed shot curled off the hands of Seuss and in. Sean Davis off the bench gets the goal.
And that would be his first goal with the first team as well. Exactly what you want to see from a player we were talking about is going to have perhaps an opportunity with the Olympic national team coming up with qualifiers this fall. He's an influential player. This is his rookie year, but being in the right place at the right time. You have to, like Connor Lade, being able to find space, develop things. Here's Wright Phillips again, laying off the ball to Mike Grella. Clever little back heel. Davies doesn't make any mistake about it, slots it in. Seuss is able to get his big paw on it, but not enough. A well-placed finish there, and that's what you want to see from a younger player. Confidence. What's he going to be able to take from this opportunity? First time really to get extended minutes with the first team. He puts the ball in the back of the net. Homegrown guy, has an awful lot of potential. Hasn't seen too much of the field so far during the MLS regular season. Can he now build on this and be useful for Jesse Marsch in the regular season?
So we get official confirmation, both Mike Grella and Bradley Wright Phillips receiving assists on that one. So Wright Phillips now with 2 assists on the night. Sean Davis, the 3rd goal scorer of the night on that one. You said Duke University man, as well as a homegrown player. Has played time with the New York Red Bulls too, and now here with the New York Red Bulls. And Mike Grella with the back heel to open up that one. A good passing sequence for New York to get themselves a 3rd goal. And Christian, you got to think really the goal that could break Atlanta's spirit.
It certainly is, and now it's the opportunity for the Red Bulls perhaps just to get a run out there, get some of the younger guys involved, and continue this confidence building right now. I mean, this is a team that's fallen on hard time, but you're going to have the opportunity for a Dane Richards, for instance, there, hustling hard in the press system. Sean Davis, who just got his first goal. What are some of the other guys are going to have their opportunities? Jean-Baptiste as well, coming in for an extended 45 minutes. Work on getting them involved. Work on building their confidence.
Felipe to take this one. So a lot of happy moments so far in this game for New York. Zubar comes back and gets a goal. Sean Davis with his first goal. New York Red Bulls fans enjoying this one. Damian Perry-Nell rises to meet that one. And we talked a little bit about the excitement and the emotion with Zubar and his relationship with Jesse Marsch. Perry-Nell is one of the guys who came last year, didn't really get chances when he got to this team, kind of was never really in favor, but chooses to return. And Jesse Marsch has shown a lot of confidence in him this season.
He certainly has, and Perry-Nell was a guy who was, only got into the starting 11 for the ill-fated CONCACAF Champions League quest last year when the Red Bulls were a little short-handed, didn't really start any of their elite-level guys. And I think Perry-Nell was a little bit of an afterthought. He had to come in this offseason as a trialist, but he came in fit, he came in sharp. He's a physical defender, but what you have to like about him the most, he picks up his head when he plays the game. He's confident with the ball at his feet. He can bring some composure to the back line. So that's always a good thing that you want from your center backs.
So Dennison with the take. Robles punched it wide. Atlanta trying to keep it alive. Another punch there from Robles. Now Davis away on the break. Christian trying to close him down. Davis able to keep it alive. So the rookie does well there.
And there's probably about 250 people on the supporters end, but I don't know if we've ever heard the South Ward quite this loud singing Twist and Shout before.
Grella here looking to give them a little bit something more to dance about. Bradley Wright Phillips flashes that header wide.
And then that's what you want to see from Bradley Wright Phillips, consistently getting himself into space, making those runs. And you can tell at this point, Dave, that his teammates want to get him that goal. They want to get him going. They know if Bradley Wright Phillips is firing on all cylinders, how important he can be to this team moving forward through what's going to be a very busy summer stretch run.
Bradley Wright Phillips, one of the guys you want to go online and vote for. Vote for all your favorite New York Red Bulls players in the 2015 MLS All-Star Match. Voting is open now and ends on July 3rd. Visit NewYorkRedBulls.com today to vote. One taking place out in Colorado this year. New York Red Bulls could be pretty heavily represented there. They've had a lot of players who have been in the Team of the Week so far throughout this season. You have to say McCarty's having, once again, I think we say this every year over the last few years, having one of his best seasons of his career. Felipe's come back with a strong season as well. We've mentioned Sasha Kleshtin and Lloyd Sam and Bradley Wright Phillips. Luis Robles, you said, is a guy who should be in the U.S. national team conversation. So a lot of players will have the opportunity to be a part of that team.
And perhaps Magic Mike, too. Mike Grella, the way he's been performing. You've seen some of his deft touches, the highlight reels, the ankle-breaking kind of stuff that he's been capable of the past month or so. I think Mike Grella should at least be in that conversation as a guy who has done more than enough to earn at least a passing look for the MLS All-Star Game.
And one thing we do have to say, you got to, for these players for New York, you don't want to pick up any unnecessary yellow cards or red cards, because you don't want any card accumulation to come. Bradley Wright Phillips, the first player in this game so far for New York to pick one up. We said Chris Duval, he's finishing out his suspension from last year, so he'll be available if New York is to move on into the next round.
Be interesting to see what Atlanta does on this set piece. Damian Peronel just ran off the field. They're losing one of their big guys, the center back, who can win those kind of balls on set pieces.
Knocked down and then cleared out here by McCarty off the service from Dennison. Suze trying to keep it in. A couple big bodies are still forward. Okafor now hasn't had a lot of opportunities on the ball to work. Here he does. Looks to cut in on Lade, and Lade able to stand him up. No foul called, and then Connor Lade shaking his head. The two New Jersey area guys getting into it.
And Lade's certainly one of those feisty guys, not afraid to get tangled up when he's out there.
Roy Miller with some space out on the left. We've seen Mike Grella and Dane Richards swap sides here in the second half. Give this Atlanta attack a little bit of a different look. Defense. Andrew Jean-Baptiste. You have to say Christian has settled down a little bit here throughout this second half.
Well, he did have just a little bit of a miscommunication right there with Luis Robles in a situation where he should be playing it safe first and foremost. But I think Jean-Baptiste now has learned what he needs to do when he's partnering with center back Damian Peronel. He's someone who has more than a handful of appearances at the MLS level. He's started a number of games. He knows what he's doing. He certainly has the physical skills, but can he be that smart center back that Jesse Marsch wants?
Harley there with the miscommunication with Miller, putting it straight out of bounds. Andrew Jean-Baptiste, the player who came in trial by fire, just a 19-year-old, immediately thrust into an MLS starting lineup at Portland, and then was part of a Chivas team that had a lot going on, both on the field and behind the scenes, but has had an opportunity now to come home. A Brooklyn native, grew up Elmont, New York, and now a chance to play for the New York Red Bulls. All right, Phillips trying to lay it off there for Grella, and then Richards able to make it a messy clearance. Bradley Wright Phillips with the chance, and it's just wide of that upper 90.
Certainly not lacking for confidence right there, but Seuss is just kind of all over the place right now. Seems like someone who hasn't settled into the game, and we're talking 78th minute now sort of things. But that's what you want to see from Bradley Wright Phillips. You want your striker to take those half chances and be able to make the most of it. The ball pops up to him, and he nearly puts it on frame.
Seuss with the clearance. Jean-Baptiste able to win that one. Paul Black, a player who likes to get forward from fullback and really be a major part of the attack, just hasn't had opportunities to do that so far today. But once again, a set piece opportunity in the attacking half for Atlanta.
And we talk about what Atlanta can take away from this match. Certainly the scoreline is going to show a little bit of a tilted sort of feel, but they've settled in a bit more in this second half. I think the amount of pressure that the midfield was on from this Red Bulls, basically starting 11 that they trotted out here for this match. I think all things considered, the back four did a reasonably good job. They lost McKenzie midway through the first half, and they had to put in Christian. So not everything went their way, but they never hung their heads. They kept the spirit high, and I think defensively, there were more good things than bad things from them.
Dane Richards off to the races here. That shot saved by Seuss. Looks like Seuss took a pop in the head as well at the end of that one. Dane Richards behind the back of the defense. He had one-on-one right from the middle of the field. Christian couldn't get it by the outstretched legs of Seuss.
And that's probably one of the ones where Dane needs to take a touch out wide rather than going centrally. You're talking about Seuss, a goalkeeper who's got good size, a very good wingspan. He's able to come out and make himself big right there. And Richards really needs to take that out wide and be able to try to slot it in. You're not going to be able to get too many shots over someone like Seuss when he's coming down and cutting down the angle like that.
Fans, USsoccer.com is your source for full coverage of the 2015 Lamar Hunt US Open Cup. You can also follow coverage of the tournament on Twitter at Open Cup. Philadelphia and the Rochester Rhinos, the first game of this round to kick off tonight at 7 p.m. Entering the 80th minute, still 0-0. This game, of course, 3-0. Sporting KC and St. Louis FC in their newfound rivalry, still 0-0. Chicago and Louisville City, 0-0. And then two more games have kicked off. See the replay there of Dane Richards' play. Seuss back up on his feet. Good to see the referee immediately noticing the head injury, stopping play, and now allowing them to continue.
That's certainly one of the things where MLS has advanced more than a lot of other leagues in terms of head injuries. And I think Taylor Twellman, someone who, of course, went through several horrific concussions of his own, being a spokesman for this in this country has really helped move the ball, if you will, as far as MLS's acknowledging of how to handle head injuries.
Andrew Jean-Baptiste clears that one out. Throw-in coming from Paul Black. New York looking to make history. They've never won this competition before. They're able to hold on here. They'd go into the round of 16. They'll be only 4 wins away from winning a trophy every single round. They have the potential to host if they do choose. Of course, we know this team will look to if they can. Banging around the box here. Felipe able to get it clear. From here, they'd move on. We don't know what competition they'd face next, but we do know that they'll attempt to make it regionalized. So that potential, you said, for a New York derby once again versus NYCFC or the New York Cosmos.
And big picture, where does this team go from here now? You're looking at a squad that in all likelihood is going to come out with at least a 3-0 score line. But how do they take this now into a very busy slate of games? They've got Vancouver coming up on Saturday. I think probably one of the top 2 teams in the league right now, the way they're playing under Carl Robinson. They're kind of the prototype of an MLS team and how they're constructed with their designated players, with the balance they have, with the ability they have to knock the ball around. You've got Real Salt Lake, who maybe isn't quite as dynamic as they have been the past few seasons, but still is a dangerous team, is a team that when they're playing with confidence, they create those kind of passing triangles that become so difficult to defend against when you have a pressing style. And then you've got an emotional game coming up 2 Sundays from now against New York City. I think there's some good things that emerge from this game. I still have question marks about the depth of this roster. I mean, we've seen some of it on display tonight. I think Connor Lay did a good job. What's going to be a 90-minute shift, that's going to be good. But Felipe, where's he going to be now at the MLS level? You haven't seen him consistently put in the kind of performances you would like to see. Where's the wide play coming from? I like some of the things Mike Grella has done consistently over the past few games. But again, is he the answer on the left side of midfield, or do they need to address that perhaps with a big-name signing? So I think there's still a lot of question marks from this team, but certainly you have to feel that they got things going in the right direction, especially considering 3 straight losses.
A lot of heavy action coming up for this New York team, and it should be an interesting test on Saturday because of the style of Vancouver going up against the style of this New York team. We know Vancouver dangerous on the break. They have that speed factor in Kekuta Mane. They have one of the top goal scorers in the league up top in Rivero. And so it should be interesting to see. It'll be different than the way this Atlanta team played, Christian, but yet you still have the confidence coming off this game, which can help your team.
It certainly can, and we saw in 2010 how the U.S. Open Cup was a springboard for the team. Even if it was primarily reserve players that were part of that, it lifted the roster through a time when the team was going through a tough slate of games. They won only once in May out of 5 games, and perhaps similarly here, being able to get this result with a full starting 11 just gives the sense of this is how we can play. If we show up and do what Jesse Marsh wants us to do, we can certainly perform and get a good result.
Jaime Chavez with his 3rd good opportunity of the game. He just can't direct that header home wide of that far post. And you see a conversation now between Luis Robles and his back line trying to keep that clean sheet. And clean sheet so far for the U.S. women's national team as the crowd around Red Bull Arena hears that one. The U.S. women's national team still leading 1-0 over Nigeria in their final group stage game out in Vancouver. Abby Wambach with the goal so far as the USA chants ring out here at Red Bull Arena, Christian.
You know what? I think it's a feel-good night for the U.S. Nigeria was certainly one of those teams that I think had the possibility to make a good run in this tournament. Certainly a quality opponent that they're playing. I'm not sure Germany can say that about all the opponents that they've played in the group stage. The U.S. is going to come out of this group well tested. I know that the result against Sweden certainly is going to sour things just a little bit. I still have question marks about if this team can be one that can go any further in this tournament than being a semifinal contender. I mean, there are so many holes in terms of the midfield, what you're looking at, where the productivity is coming. If Abby Wambach's not scoring, this team becomes completely one-dimensional.
And we have to say Alex Morgan, who's been coming back from injury, did finally start her first game of the tournament here today, so the potential there for a little bit of an offensive punch if she can get healthy. As Felipe battles here in the corner, Atlanta pushing hard as they have throughout this game, trying to get themselves on the score sheet. Porter wide to Kyle Miller. Kyle Miller curls the ball in. Roy Miller, though, is able to meet it in that battle of the last names, and it goes out in favor of New York. We approach the last 5 minutes of regular time here.
There just seems to be a lack of understanding on Atlanta's part in terms of what they need to do with supporting each other, where the certain players are going to be, where the outlet pass is, who's going to be making that run, who's going in between the final third. I think Chavez has had a very good second half for Atlanta. In terms of that, he's made a couple good dissecting runs. But right now we see Dane Richards with perhaps an opportunity to atone himself for his earlier miss. Bradley Wright Phillips again being the provider here, but Dane Richards has to put that one on frame. You see Bradley Wright Phillips making the run for about 60 yards right here, keeping his head up the whole time. Dane Richards making the smart run, choosing not to pass it across the goal to Magic Mike Grella and deciding to go in and give the effort. But I think at some point we need to begin to consider what's Dane Richards' role on this team. He's been a guy who brings a certain amount of speed, certainly not the speed that we saw in 2010, 2011 when he was a part of this Red Bulls roster. But is he just going to be a super sub? Can we rely on him consistently to turn performances and to continue to stretch defenses any longer?
Richards here trying to play. Provider this time almost does for an own goal and then cleared in the end by Christian. Chaotic moment there for Paul Black, but gets bailed out by his goalkeeper, Seuss.
And Sean Davis here almost being in the right spot. Dane Richards just knocking on him a few minutes ago with a nice ball into the 6-yard box. Not exactly sure what was going on there in terms of the defending. You need to send that one out across to the far post. He puts it instead on the center of his goal. I think Seuss does well to have a quick reaction, and Sean Davis almost nabs his brace.
Harley looking to run at Miller, and Roy Miller steps in with the clean tackle. Get confirmation from the sideline. We will have at least a minimum of 2 minutes of stoppage time added to this one, depending on how this one closes out. On that play there where Bradley Wright Phillips opens it up for Dane Richards, You've said a couple times tonight you want to maybe see him be a little bit more selfish. You're okay with him passing that opportunity up and maybe not calling his own number?
Well, he was certainly drawing the defender right there, so I don't have an issue at all. As we see Mike Grella goes down really hard, and there's Grella getting right in the face of the Atlanta player, and I think rightly so. You're in the 89th minute of a game that's, your
but
team
New York
has
has to
right
be
off
smart
the field
here because they're the ones who could be going through in this tournament, and they don't want any players unnecessarily suspended for the next round.
But you know what? Big picture, this is what you want to see. 89th minute, your team is up 3-0, and Jesse Marsh's guys are coming to the defense of each other. I'm not sure if this would have happened in the last few years for this Red Bulls team, but these guys are fighting for each other. I have no problem with this.
And now the referee talking to, it looked like Simon Mensing as well as Hans Dennison there. A few words to Mike Grella. No issue, it seems like card-wise on this plays. It's all happening right under the gaze of head coach Jesse Marsh. Felipe, tried to take it quickly, but he can't. And Jesse Marsh right there on that sideline watching over this one. Christian, we've talked about the success of this team as we see officially 2 minutes at minimum of stoppage time. He's got to be happy about a night like tonight.
You have to be, but I still think that question marks are emerging for this team. This is a nice result. It's an expected result. It's against what is arguably, and statistically at least, the worst team in the NASL for the spring season. It's a franchise that's very much up in the air what their future is going to be. Red Bull came out and did what they're supposed to do. How do they take that into Saturday? That remains to be seen. How do they address the depth issues? We've seen tonight that Dane Richards, is capable of getting himself into good spots, but maybe he's not the elite player that he was in 2010, certainly 2011 when he was here with the Red Bulls. I think that there has to be some serious issues that need to be addressed on this team before those fans on MetroFanatic.com can rest easy a little bit.
Felipe takes it short. It will be retaken as we enter stoppage time. Looks like New York is going to come away with this 4th round victory and move on to the next round of the U.S. Open Cup here on this one.
And watching on here from this near sideline is the USL team, and that's a unit that I know they crashed out the tournament a little bit before they thought they were going to. I spoke with Jean-Baptiste last week, and he said, watch out next year. The USL team, the way we're bringing up guys, the young guys we have on the roster, we might have New York 2 playing New York 1 at some point in the Open Cup.
This one goes over the top. Chavez trying to lay it off for Porter. Porter back to goal, looks to turn and shoot. Across, still alive in the box. Dennison used his hand there to try and keep it. He gets called. And it'll be a free kick. It's amazing. Christian, 16-year-olds playing professional soccer on that USL team now, with Mason Deeds getting a few minutes for that team alongside 17 and 18-year-olds who all got the opportunity to play against the Jersey Express in that U.S. Open Cup 2nd round match. And we are completed here on our 4th round match. The New York Red Bulls defeat Atlanta Silverbacks of NASL 3-0 on this one here at home. Goals from Lloyd Sam as well as Ronald Zubar and Sean Davis. And let's go to the highlights and take a look at how this New York Red Bulls team
are doing exactly what you would expect them to do. A deep ball from Dax McCarty. Wright Phillips picking up his head, definitely laying it off, and Lloyd Sam doing well to one-time the opportunity, putting it in near post. I think an opportunity that Seuss should have done better. And then we're going to talk about this one for a while. A well-taken, intricate corner kick being laid off. Sasha Kleshtin sending it in, and Ronald Zubar holding himself in the right position so that he can get the deflection, put them up 2, and at this point, Red Bull was in cruise control.
And you see the reaction there. Zubar, he got himself 45 minutes today, his first return from that injury, and then in the second half, Atlanta showed some flashes, but eventually Sean Davis finished them off.
And Lade really clicking right here, sending a nice ball to Mike Grella, who's able to kind of deftly be able to do the back heel touch. I think Grella had a good game, another confidence-building performance, and Davis doing what he's supposed to be doing in terms of just being able to finish, putting it on that post, tucking it in nicely with a little bit of velocity.
Game, go to NewYorkRedBulls.com and check it out for tickets, and then they continue on from there. A midweek game before the New York Derby the Sunday after on national TV. So a lot of action coming up. Stay on New York.